You see, I'm a folklorist. And folklorists, unlike literature scholars or art historians or music scholars, we don't look to the productions of the rare geniuses of humankind as the only cultural products worth paying attention to.
Folklore, as defined by the American Folklore Society, is traditional art, literature, and knowledge. Folklore is passed generation to generation, predominantly through oral communication, and many scholars argue it is the center of a group's cultural identity.
That's the influence of institutions on our cultural thinking. The idea that the stuff worth paying attention to is the stuff produced by the rare talents, the unique minds, the great geniuses among us. What folklore studies is all about is what all the rest of us can do. The stuff that everybody is capable of producing.
The inherent diversity of folklore creates a valuable tool for researchers to uncover modern prejudices still sustained against various groups of peoples. Stemming from colonialism and the search to conquer new areas and people, a sense of authority has been historically built through language and literature. Today, the construction of two groups from these conquests may still persist: the European self and the non-European self. The European self also expands over its descendants as well, which includes mostly Americans. We conducted an experiment using folklore to discover if the preconceived prejudices towards non-European cultures still exist, even among young, educated adults.
What? It's either spelled wrong or this is German or some shit. Am I close? Wait, are you filming me right now?
Once upon a time, Breda and Nancy make up I'm mine say I'm gwine collect all out of common sense in a de whirl. What what is this?
Once, I think it's once. Once upon a time, Brenda and C mech up in mine. I can't even do that.
Once upon a time, Breda and Nancy make up in mind say I'm gyn collect all a day common sense in a day world. Was thinking that he would be the smartest smatty in the world if I'm do deuce.
To make sure it was safe, Anansi tied the calabash to the front of the beddy. This slowed down in progress up the tree to a slow crawl. Did look very clumsy a go up the tree. Would be called the calabash did a hamper him.
He was so angry that I'm fling the calabash to the ground and it bust. All of the common sense did collect fly back all over the world. And that's how you and I managed to have just a little common sense for we self today.
So if you had to guess, who would you picture writing that or reading it to you?
A kindergartner. Someone who doesn't know grammar. It sounds like gibberish that some kindergartner would make up.
A little kid that struggles with spelling.
Where do you think it's from? Like, where do you think it was written?
I hope overseas somewhere, not in America.
Who do I picture behind those words? Somebody who can't read or write. That's what I think. A little person. Somebody in elementary school, I guess.
Where do you think the writing's from?
I'm gonna say maybe like a Dr. Seuss book. I don't know.
I pictured a young child, a boy.
Where do you think the story's from?
My first thought was like America. Or I also thought of like an author writing a children's book and he thinks this is how children would talk.
Whether it's writing them, reading them, who do you picture?
It sounds kind of sub-Saharan African to me, like, or Creole, or some sort of accent like that.
Interdeterminacy is the multitude of possible interpretations of a text and its elements, and requires readers to draw their own conclusions. The folklore given to the students was unfamiliar to them, but when asked if they knew what folklore was, every response was a yes. But despite their apparent knowledge of folklore, most of the students failed to recognize this work as folkloric or acknowledge its cultural value. The equation of this folkloric dialect with unintelligence, illiteracy, and childishness uncovered most readers' inherent sense of superiority over the folklore's creator and is detrimental to the origin culture. The reactions also created a sense of a type of other person as the readers distanced themselves from the author because the readers did not believe someone like themselves would create literature like this folklore. When asked to share folklore that was familiar to them, they shared examples of published literature, tall tales, mythology, or even examples of regional dialect.
Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm not much for folklore on a normal basis.
I mean, folklore where I grew up. I mean, I guess my family's pretty Norwegian, but I don't know, like, maybe they have like an accent or I don't know.
I guess maybe like Jack and Jill. I don't know if that counts.
So I think of this one about mosquitoes, and the reason that mosquitoes like buzz in your ears because they're trying to tell you something. And it was like a person got turned into a mosquito, and it kept trying to tell people that like help me, like save me, like turn me not like get me back into a human. So that's why mosquitoes like buzz in your ears, because they're like trying to tell you something.
What comes to mind mostly is like Greek folklore, because I was kind of into that in like middle school and stuff like that. But things like that and like stories such as like Paul Bunyan, that's really popular, certainly in the Midwest, and stories like that, because they do the same thing where they kind of try to seek to explain how things are, how things came to be.
So even for those with a higher education, it is clear that some people will still maintain unfair prejudice against cultures unlike their own.
I'm American.
So do you
Actually, cut that out.